Number 1. A passenger on a Caribbean cruise complained that the ocean was too blue. Not murky enough, apparently. Not the warm, familiar gray of a municipal swimming pool. The Caribbean Sea, formed over millions of years of geological perfection, had the audacity to look exactly like every postcard ever printed, and someone found that suspicious. Number 2. Another guest complained that the ship moved during the night. They were asleep. They felt nothing. They simply woke up in a different location and were furious about it. That is, in fact, the entire premise of a cruise. The ship moves, that is the product. Number 3. Someone filed a formal complaint that the sun set too early. It was December. They were in the northern hemisphere. The complaint was submitted in writing. Number 4. A passenger was upset that the buffet closed at midnight. Not that the food was bad, not that there were no options. The buffet, one of 11 dining venues on the ship, simply stopped serving at midnight, and this was treated as a human rights concern. Number 5. A couple complained that their ocean view cabin had a view of the ocean. Specifically, they had not expected so much water. They had wanted more land on their ocean cruise across the ocean. Number 6. Someone submitted a complaint that the waves were too loud at night. The ocean, operating without a permit or a noise ordinance, continued to behave like the ocean. The passenger requested compensation. Number 7. A guest complained that the ship's gym was too far from their cabin. The ship was over 1,000 feet long. Every single thing on it was far from their cabin. That is what large means. Number 8. A passenger was disappointed that the formal dinner required formal attire. This was listed in the booking. It was mentioned at check-in. It appeared in the daily newsletter. The tuxedo requirement, apparently, came as a complete ambush. Number 9. Someone complained that the sea air smelled like salt. They were at sea. The complaint was escalated to a supervisor, who confirmed that the ocean does, in fact, contain salt, and that this policy was unlikely to change. Number 10. A family complained that the kids' club closed at 10 in the evening. They wanted it open until 2 in the morning. For the children. Who were children? Number 11. A passenger complained there were too many other passengers on the ship. The vessel held 4,000 people. That number was publicly available before booking. The presence of 4,000 people was, it turns out, not a surprise. The cruise line had planned to spring on anyone. Number 12. Someone was upset that the ship's internet was slow in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Thousands of miles from the nearest cell tower, connected to the world by satellite, the Wi-Fi was not delivering the speeds of a downtown fiber connection. The passenger left a 1-star review. Number 13. A guest complained that the private beach at their port stop was crowded. It was a public beach, in a Caribbean nation, that welcomed tourists. The word private had appeared in a travel blog, not in any official documentation, and yet here we are. Number 14. Someone filed a complaint that the ship's pool was too small. The ship had 4 pools. This was the one nearest their cabin, and they felt personally inconvenienced by its dimensions, as though the naval architects had specifically designed it to slight them. Number 15. A passenger complained that the sea was rough during a storm. There was a named storm in the region. The captain had announced it. The meteorological service had tracked it for 5 days. The ocean, however, had not cleared its schedule. Number 16. Someone complained that the cruise director was too enthusiastic. This is a job that requires enthusiasm as a baseline qualification. Asking a cruise director to be less cheerful is like asking a lighthouse to be less bright. It sort of defeats the purpose. Number 17. A passenger requested a refund because the ship had too many stairs. There is an elevator. There are, in fact, multiple elevators. The stairs exist because the ship is a physical structure subject to the laws of geometry and gravity, not a personal inconvenience engineered against you specifically. Number 18. A guest complained that the sunset looked too perfect and therefore felt fake. It was a real sunset, over a real ocean, produced by the real atmosphere bending real light at the end of a real day. The passenger suspected CGI. Be honest. What do you even say to that? Number 19. Someone complained that the other passengers were too loud during the deck party. The deck party that was listed on the daily itinerary, the deck party with a live band, the one they were standing at when they made the complaint. Number 20. A passenger was upset that seagulls had flown near the ship. The ship was near a coastline. Seagulls live near coastlines. This is a fact so fundamental it appears in children's picture books, yet somehow it warranted a written grievance addressed to guest services. Number 21. A couple complained that their honeymoon suite had neighbors in an adjacent cabin on a ship containing 4,000 guests. They had wanted isolation on a cruise liner. In the middle of the busiest sailing season of the year, it somehow gets worse from here. Number 22. A passenger complained that the life jacket drill was boring. The mandatory safety exercise, designed to prevent drowning, had not sufficiently entertained them. They sat through it with visible displeasure and submitted feedback suggesting it be made more engaging, possibly with music. Number 23. Someone complained that the ship's logo was on all the towels. It is the ship's towels, from the ship's laundry, bearing the ship's branding. This is not theft. This is not negligence. This is a towel doing exactly what a branded towel is supposed to do. Number 24. A guest was frustrated that the cruise stopped at ports instead of staying at sea. They had booked a cruise to 3 destinations. The ship went to 3 destinations. The docking, the disembarking, the exploring, all of it had been described in the itinerary in complete sentences. The passenger wanted to keep sailing, past the places they had paid to visit. Number 25. Someone complained that their cabin steward knocked before entering, as is required, as is polite, as is the standard practice of every hospitality professional on Earth. The knocking, apparently, was disruptive. The alternative was not considered preferable. Number 26. A passenger complained that the Caribbean weather was too hot in July. In the Caribbean, a region defined historically, climatically, and geographically by heat. The weather had not deviated from the historical average. The passenger had simply not consulted the historical average. Number 27. A guest submitted a formal complaint that the ship's horn was too loud when it departed. The horn, a maritime safety instrument required by international law, sounded as the ship left port. It was loud. Horns are loud. That is what makes them horns and not suggestions. Number 28. Someone complained that the ice cream machine was soft serve only on a ship in a tropical climate. Soft serve, the format best suited to warm environments and high-volume service, had been selected for these exact reasons. The passenger wanted hard scoop. They wanted it at 2 in the afternoon, in the sun, on a deck. Number 29. A passenger was upset that their shore excursion involved walking. It was listed as a walking tour. The word walking appeared in the title. They submitted a complaint after returning from the walking tour in which they had walked and felt, only then, that this had been sprung on them. Number 30. Someone complained that the ocean was moving too much during their cruise. The ocean was moving too much. We are now halfway through this list, and I want you to pause and genuinely reflect on what that sentence means in the context of reality. Number 31. A passenger complained that the dining room chairs were not comfortable enough for a 3-hour dinner. They had chosen to sit at dinner for 3 hours. The chair had not extended an invitation. It had simply been a chair doing chair things for a duration the passenger had selected entirely on their own. Number 32. A guest complained that there were fish in the ocean when they went snorkeling. They had booked a snorkeling excursion at a coral reef. The fish, residents of that reef for decades, had not been informed that their presence was unwelcome. Number 33. Someone filed a complaint that the ship's navigation lights were visible from their balcony at night. The lights that ensure other vessels do not collide with the ship in the dark. Those lights were on at night, when visibility is reduced, as designed. Number 34. A passenger complained that their cruise itinerary included a day at sea with no port stop. This day at sea had been listed in the itinerary as day at sea in bold, friendly text. It had been presented as a feature, a rest day, an amenity. The passenger experienced it as an act of betrayal. Number 35. Someone was furious that the spa was an additional charge on an already all-inclusive cruise. The spa, a separate facility staffed by licensed professionals offering specialized services, cost extra. The passenger felt this was deceptive, which suggests they may also feel deceived when a hotel charges extra for a massage. Number 36. A couple complained that their anniversary dinner was not private enough because other couples were also celebrating anniversaries that evening. The restaurant, serving 800 people per seating, had not been reserved for their milestone exclusively. Other people, it turned out, also have anniversaries in June. Number 37. A passenger submitted a complaint that the lifeboat was visible from their cabin window. The lifeboat, that is there, in case the ship sinks, was visible from their window. They found it aesthetically displeasing and asked if it could be moved. The lifeboat could not be moved. Number 38. Someone complained that the formal portrait photographer took too many photos. On the formal portrait night, when the formal portrait photographer was hired to take formal portraits, the camera, they felt, had been pointed at them excessively. During the portrait session, designed for portraits. Number 39. A guest complained that the cruise's all-you-can-eat brunch did not include lobster. The all-you-can-eat brunch included 64 items. Lobster was not among them. The 63 other items, eggs, pastries, smoked salmon, carved meats, fresh fruit, made-to-order waffles, were apparently insufficient context for the absence of a 64th. Number 40. A passenger complained that the captain made too many announcements. The captain, responsible for the safety and coordination of a vessel carrying 4,000 souls across international waters, periodically communicated with the passengers. This was considered excessive. Have you ever genuinely wanted less information from the person in charge of keeping you alive? Number 41. Someone was upset that their port of call was in a foreign country where people spoke a different language. They had traveled internationally to another country where the local population spoke the language of that country. This had not been flagged in the complaint form as irony. It had been filed as a legitimate grievance. Number 42. A guest complained that the art auction on board was trying to sell them art. The art auction, whose purpose, name, and function are all contained within the two words art auction, was attempting to auction art to people who had attended the art auction. Number 43. A passenger was disappointed that the adults-only pool had adults in it. Other adults, plural, existing in the adults-only space alongside them. The pool had not been reserved. The passenger had simply arrived and expected on some level to be the only adult who had thought to go to the adults-only pool. Number 44. Someone complained that the ship rocked when large waves hit it. Physics, unmoved by the complaint, continued to apply. The ship, a floating object subject to the forces of water and wind, did what floating objects do when struck by waves. The passenger wanted a refund for the physics. Number 45. A guest filed a complaint that the cruise line had not warned them about seasickness. It is listed in every booking confirmation. It is discussed in every cruise preparation guide. The cure is available at the front desk. The warning had been given, in multiple formats, in multiple languages, before, during, and after the booking process. This next one, I promise you, is worse. Number 46. A passenger complained that their cabin did not have a window, despite having booked an interior cabin. Interior cabins, by definition, do not have windows. The word interior was in the cabin category. The price was lower because there was no window. The money saved was spent. The window was not included. The complaint was submitted anyway. Number 47. Someone demanded a refund because the cruise ship was too big. They had been impressed by its size in the brochure. They had booked it because of its size. They had bragged about its size to their neighbors. Once aboard, they found the size inconvenient for navigation and felt this was the cruise line's fault. Number 48. A passenger complained that the evening entertainment was too entertaining and therefore kept them awake. The Broadway-style show, featuring a full cast, a live orchestra, and theatrical lighting, running at 9 in the evening in a dedicated theater on the other side of the ship, was too stimulating for them to sleep. In their cabin, on the other side of the ship. Number 49. Someone was outraged that the duty-free shop closed during the night. The retail store, on the ship, that had operating hours, like every retail store in human history, closed when the staff needed to sleep. The passenger had wanted to purchase perfume at 3 in the morning and felt personally wronged by the concept of business hours. Number 50. A guest complained that a foreign port stop did not accept US dollars. They were in a sovereign nation with its own currency. The local economy had not restructured itself around one passenger's preference for not exchanging money. The ATM was 20 feet away. The exchange rate was fair. The complaint was filed anyway. Number 51. A passenger was upset that the cruise ended. They had purchased a 7-day cruise. 7 days had passed. The ship had returned to port as scheduled, on time, exactly as promised. The ending of the cruise, the concluding event of a cruise, was experienced as an unexpected and unwelcome development. Number 52. Someone complained that they had seen the same waiter twice at 2 different restaurants on the ship. They suspected this meant the service was understaffed. The waiter worked on the ship. The ship had multiple restaurants. The waiter, a human being with legs and a schedule, had moved between them. Number 53. A passenger complained that the champagne welcome used Prosecco. This is a fair complaint dressed in the clothing of entitlement. Prosecco is not champagne. But the passenger then added that they had expected a personal sommelier, a private toast with the captain, and a balloon arrangement in their cabin, for a booking that cost less than a weekend at a mid-range hotel. Number 54. A guest submitted a complaint that the ocean was darker at night than during the day. The ocean, at night, was dark, because it was night. They had stood on the deck after sunset and found the visual experience unsatisfying. The darkness, which follows the sun's departure from the sky, as it has done since the formation of the solar system, had not been adequately disclosed. Number 55. Someone complained that the cruise ship's wake was disturbing the ocean. The trail of water left by the ship as it moved through the sea, a phenomenon inseparable from the concept of a ship moving through the sea, was considered environmentally inconsiderate. The passenger had traveled thousands of miles by airplane to board this complaint. Number 56. A passenger requested that the cruise line control the weather for the duration of their voyage, not prepare for it, not route around it, control it. Specifically, they wanted sun in the morning, a light breeze from the northwest, and cloud cover between 2 and 4 in the afternoon to prevent glare on their book. This was submitted to guest services as a preference, not a joke. Number 57. A guest complained that the towel animals left by their cabin steward were not realistic enough. The towels, folded each evening by a crew member after a 12-hour shift into the shape of a swan or an elephant or a lobster, had not achieved sufficient biological accuracy. The proportions, apparently, were off. Number 58. A passenger complained that their cruise had too much ocean between ports. The ship, sailing across the Caribbean, had to cross water to reach the islands. The water between the islands is the ocean. The ocean is what the ship sails on. The ship cannot take a different route to avoid the ocean because the ocean is the route. Number 59. A family complained that they could see other cruise ships in the distance from their deck. The shared waters of a popular sailing route contained other ships. Other ships operated by other cruise lines also carrying passengers who had also booked Caribbean cruises. The visible presence of these ships, miles away, on the horizon, had diminished their sense of exclusivity on a vessel they shared with 4,000 people. Number 60. A passenger demanded compensation because a dolphin had splashed water onto their sun deck. A wild dolphin, swimming in the ocean, had leapt near the ship and displaced water in the manner of dolphins. The passenger's towel was damp. They wanted a credit for the dolphin, who was not employed by the cruise line and had not agreed to their terms of service. Number 61. Someone complained that the stars were too bright at night when the ship was far from shore. Away from light pollution, in the open ocean, the Milky Way was visible in full. The sky was extraordinary. The passenger found it overwhelming. They asked if the ship could turn on more exterior lights to reduce the visibility of the stars. The stars that have existed for 5 billion years were, in their estimation, excessive. Number 62. A passenger submitted a formal complaint that the cruise ship was too large to be intimate, and then, in the same document, complained that their cabin was too small, the pools were too small, the buffet lines were too long, and there were not enough staff members for the number of guests. They wanted a larger ship with a smaller ship feeling, fully staffed for intimacy, without any of the other guests, priced like a budget option. The document was 4 pages long. Number 63. And finally, the entry that renders everything before it quaint. A passenger complained that the ocean was in the way. They had wanted to travel from Miami to the Bahamas. The ocean, positioned geographically between these two locations, as it has been since the continental formations of the Mesozoic era, was described as an inconvenience, an obstruction, something that should, in their view, have been communicated up front. The ocean was in the way of the cruise on the ocean. And there you have it. 63 complaints from 63 passengers who encountered reality and found it wanting. What strikes you, standing at the end of this list, is not the absurdity of any single complaint. It's the confidence. The serene, unshakable confidence of someone who has paid money and therefore believes that gravity, meteorology, geography, marine biology, and the laws of physics owe them a better performance. Entitlement is not stupidity. It is something stranger. It is the sincere belief that the world is a service, and that someone, somewhere, is responsible for the gap between what you expected and what is. So here is your question, and be honest. Which one of these 63 complaints do you think is the single most spectacular departure from reality? And have you ever, in any context, witnessed anything that belongs on this list? Drop it in the comments because I suspect the sequel writes itself. If this video made you feel measurably more rational than when you started it, the like button is right there. And subscribing ensures you never have to face the next collection of humanity's finest moments alone.